The artificial light of Nexus Prime's 3 moons bathed the sprawling metropolis in an eerie blue glow. Dr. Aaron Vale stood at the edge of the Grand Library's balcony, his weathered fingers tracing the ancient binding of the book he clutched to his chest. From this vantage point, he could see the entire Capital District, a testament to interstellar achievement, where 1,000 alien cultures converged in harmonious commerce. Harmonious for most, anyway. Aaron's gaze fell to the small Earth embassy, tucked between the towering structures of the Quran military complex and the Zygonian Trade Commission. The human outpost was barely visible, dwarfed by its neighbors, much like humanity's standing in the galactic hierarchy. Still wasting time with your primitive artifacts. Earthling. The voice startled Aaron from his contemplation. He turned to find Ambassador Horenzeth, his translucent skin shimmering under the moonlight. Thin lips curved into what passed for a smile among the Celesti. "Ambassador!" Aaron nodded respectfully, instinctively tightening his grip on the book. "I was just admiring the view. And clutching that. What do you call it? A book." Zeth's elongated fingers made a dismissive gesture. "Such quaint technology. I'm surprised your species managed interstellar travel, while still clinging to pressed plant fibers for information storage." Aaron had grown accustomed to such remarks during his 15 years on Nexus Prime. As one of the few human anthropologists granted permanent residency on the Commerce Planet, he'd learned to weather the thinly veiled contempt. Earth, a relative newcomer to the galactic stage, was still seen as a backwater world by most established species. "Sometimes, ancient wisdom holds value beyond our immediate understanding," Aaron replied, keeping his tone light despite the familiar sting. "This particular text has been in my family for generations." Zeth's translucent eyebrows arched in apparent amusement. "Indeed. And what profound insights does this family heirloom contain? Recipes for cooking animal flesh? Instructions for primitive combustion engines?" Before Aaron could respond, a melodic chime echoed across the library. The ambassador straightened his iridescent formal robes. "Ah, the Galactic Survey presentation begins. You should attend, Dr. Vale. The Astronomers Guild has completed their 50-year mapping of the unexplored sectors. Perhaps it will give your species some perspective on your place in the greater universe." With that, Zeth glided away, leaving Aaron alone with his book and wounded pride. He considered returning to his quarters, away from the inevitable condescension he would face at the presentation. But curiosity won out. The 50-year survey represented the most comprehensive mapping of the galaxy ever attempted. Tucking the book into his satchel, Aaron made his way to the central auditorium. The chamber was already filled with representatives from dozens of species, their diverse anatomies accommodated by the adaptive seating technology of Nexus Prime. Aaron slipped into a seat near the back, hoping to remain inconspicuous. Guildmaster Trellix, a Vorian with 12 appendages specialized for astronomical calculations, floated to the center of the stage. The lights dimmed, and a holographic representation of the Milky Way galaxy materialized above the audience, spinning slowly to reveal newly charted sectors, glowing in vibrant purple. "Distinguished representatives," Trellix began, their voice resonating through neural translators. "Today marks the culmination of our 50-year Great Survey. We have mapped 17 previously unknown regions, charted over 30,000 celestial bodies, and identified 72 potentially habitable worlds." Aaron watched, genuinely impressed, as the hologram zoomed into various sectors, revealing star systems, nebulae, and cosmic phenomena in stunning detail. The technical achievement was breathtaking, even for someone from a primitive world. "But our most significant discovery," Trellix continued, their appendages waving excitedly, "is what we've termed the celestial confluence." The hologram shifted to display a strange pattern of stars, interconnected by ethereal filaments of energy. These 11 star systems appear to be linked by subspace currents, unlike anything previously recorded. Our preliminary analysis suggests these currents could potentially serve as natural acceleration lanes for interstellar travel, reducing journey times by up to 60%. Murmurs of excitement rippled through the audience. Faster travel meant expanded trade opportunities, the lifeblood of Nexus Prime. We've designated this formation the stellar web for its distinctive pattern, Trellix explained, enhancing the holographic image. Note the particular alignment, reminiscent of a predatory arachnid species. Aaron froze. Something about the pattern triggered a memory. Slowly, he withdrew his book from the satchel and opened it to a page he'd studied countless times. There, in faded ink on yellowed paper, was a drawing, a constellation pattern annotated with cryptic symbols. His hands trembling. Aaron held the book up, comparing the ancient illustration to the modern hologram hovering above. The similarity was undeniable, not approximate, not coincidental. It was identical, down to the relative positions of each star and the connecting filaments. But that was impossible. The book in his hands had been written over 1,000 years ago, long before humanity had even left Earth's atmosphere, let alone charted distant galaxies. Aaron's mind raced. Beneath the constellation drawing in the book was a passage he'd never fully deciphered, written in an archaic script that had confounded his best efforts at translation. But now, staring at the stellar web, certain symbols began to take on new meaning. "The web awakens," he whispered to himself, attempting a rough translation. "When the strands align, darkness flows, conflict." Aaron's concentration was broken as the audience erupted in applause. The presentation had concluded, and delegates were beginning to disperse. He quickly closed the book, his heart pounding. This couldn't be coincidence. Somehow, this ancient human text had depicted a stellar formation only just discovered by the most advanced astronomical technology in the galaxy. And if that part was accurate, what about the ominous references to darkness and conflict that followed? Lost in thought, Aaron didn't notice the slender figure that had slipped into the seat beside him until she spoke. "Interesting reading material. Earthling." The voice was low, with a musical quality that identified its owner as Lyra Sen, before Aaron even turned to look at her. The shadowy information broker's dark eyes gleamed with interest. "Something worth trading, perhaps?" "Lyra," Aaron acknowledged warily. "I didn't realize you had an interest in astronomical surveys." Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I have an interest in anything that causes a human to pale, like he's seen a ghost while holding a primitive artifact during a scientific presentation." Aaron closed the book firmly, tucking it back into his satchel. "Just making some cultural connections. Nothing of value to the Shadow Network." "You're a terrible liar, Dr. Vale," Lyra replied, her voice dropping even lower. "That's what makes you so refreshingly unique on this planet of schemers. Your face reveals everything, and right now, it's telling me you've discovered something significant." Before Aaron could respond, a commotion near the auditorium entrance drew their attention. General Karen Dreg had arrived, surrounded by his military entourage. The imposing Karen commander's exoskeleton gleamed under the auditorium lights, the ceremonial scarring on his carapace telling the story of countless military victories. "The war hero graces us with his presence," Lyra murmured. Late, as usual. The general considers it beneath his dignity to sit through scientific presentations, but he never misses an opportunity to be seen at important events. Aaron had encountered General Dreg only once before, during a contentious council meeting regarding Earth's petition for expanded trading rights. The general had been vocal in his opposition, citing humanity's unproven reliability and historical propensity for conflict. "I should go," Aaron said, suddenly anxious to return to his quarters and study the book more carefully. I've heard enough about stellar cartography for one day. Lyra's hand shot out, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. Before you disappear, Dr. Vale, consider this. Information is my currency, and I pay generously for the truly valuable kind. Whatever you've discovered in that ancient text of yours has clearly shaken you. I could help you understand it, for a price. Aaron gently but firmly removed her hand. Thank you for the offer, but this is a personal research matter. Lyra shrugged, the gesture elegant despite its dismissiveness. As you wish. But remember, Doctor, on Nexus Prime, secrets rarely stay secret for long, especially the dangerous ones. With that cryptic warning, she slipped away into the dispersing crowd, leaving Aaron with a growing sense of unease. He made his way toward the exit, keeping his head down and the satchel close. The coincidence was too perfect, too disturbing to ignore. He needed time alone to decipher more of the text, to understand what other secrets it might contain. As he approached the grand doors, Aaron found his path blocked by the towering figure of General Dreg. Dr. Vale. The general's voice rumbled through his external translator. I understand you've been conducting research into ancient human texts. Aaron froze. How could Dreg possibly know about his interest? He'd shared it with almost no one. Just a hobby, General, Aaron replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. Cultural anthropology is my specialty. After all, Dreg's compound eyes glittered, unreadable. Hobbies can be illuminating. The Karen Military Historical Division would be interested in examining any pre-space travel human military texts you've encountered. For academic purposes. Naturally. Naturally, Aaron echoed, his grip tightening on the satchel. I'll keep that in mind if I come across anything relevant. The general's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. See that you do, Doctor. Knowledge of the past can be tactically advantageous. With a slight nod, Dreg moved past him, his entourage following in perfect formation. Aaron released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. First Lyra, now Dreg. His book had suddenly become the focus of unwanted attention. He needed to be careful, very careful. Back in his modest quarters at the Earth Embassy, Aaron placed the book on his desk and activated his privacy shields. A luxury that had cost him 3 months' salary, but was worth every credit for moments like this. The shields would block any conventional surveillance, giving him a few hours of genuine privacy. Opening the book to the constellation page, Aaron began methodically photographing each section with his personal scanner, uploading the images to his secure data terminal. The ancient text was written in a combination of early Sanskrit, Aramaic, and what appeared to be a proprietary symbolic language. He'd made some progress in translation over the years, but much of it remained impenetrable. Until now, with the stellar web discovery providing context, certain patterns were becoming clearer. Aaron pulled up the official Astronomers Guild data released after the presentation, comparing it side by side with the book's illustrations. Computer, run comparative analysis between these two stellar patterns, he instructed. The terminal hummed briefly before displaying the results. 99.87% match, accounting for perspective variations and drawing imprecisions. Aaron sat back, momentarily overwhelmed. This wasn't just similar. It was virtually identical. How could a 1,000-year-old Earth text contain such accurate, astronomical information about star systems thousands of light-years away? Pushing aside the how for the moment, Aaron focused on the what. If the constellation mapping was accurate, then the accompanying text might be equally significant. He turned his attention to the dense paragraphs surrounding the illustration. Hours passed as Aaron worked, cross-referencing symbols, testing linguistic hypotheses, and gradually assembling fragments of translation. The more he deciphered, the more his concern grew. The text spoke of the awakening web, bringing the shadow of conflict, and celestial armies moving along the strands. One passage, clearer than most, referred to 11 worlds bound by fate, their alignment heralding the great darkness. 11 worlds, 11 star systems in the stellar web. Aaron's terminal chimed with an incoming message, breaking his concentration. The sender was unlisted, a security red flag on Nexus Prime, where anonymous communication was heavily regulated. Hesitantly, he opened the message. The web awakens. Meet me at the lower bazaar. Stall 47 midnight. Come alone. Bring the book. No signature. But Aaron had little doubt about the sender. Lyra Sen and her shadow network had resources throughout the planet. She must have continued watching him after the presentation, perhaps even followed him back to the embassy. The question was, could he trust her? The shadow network dealt in information, selling to the highest bidder, without regard for political affiliations or consequences. But Lyra herself had always operated in a moral gray area, rumored to occasionally withhold sensitive information that could cause widespread harm. Aaron checked the time, 23:17. If he was going to make the meeting, he needed to leave soon. The lower bazaar was 20 minutes away by transit, in one of the less reputable districts of Nexus Prime. He considered his options. Staying put meant continuing his research alone, which could take weeks or months. Meeting Lyra was risky, but might provide insights or resources he lacked. The fact that she had quoted the exact phrase he'd translated, "The web awakens," suggested she already knew more than she should. Decision made. Aaron carefully wrapped the book and secured it in an inner pocket of his jacket. He would bring it, but that didn't mean he would hand it over. As an additional precaution, he copied his current translation work onto a secure data chip, which he hid in a different pocket. The lower bazaar never truly slept, even at midnight. The sprawling marketplace hummed with activity, though the nature of the commerce had shifted from the legitimate daytime trades to more questionable transactions. Species from across the galaxy moved through the shadowy stalls, many concealing their identities behind cloaks or atmospheric masks. Aaron navigated the narrow pathways, counting stall numbers as he went. Most were simply fabric awnings, stretched over makeshift counters. But stall 47 proved to be different, a solid structure with actual walls and a door, more shop than stall. No sign indicated its purpose or proprietor. Aaron hesitated briefly before knocking. The door slid open immediately, revealing darkness beyond. "Enter, Dr. Vale," Lyra's voice called from within. "Quickly, please." Steeling himself, Aaron stepped inside. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss, and lights gradually illuminated the space, a small but well-appointed private meeting room. Lyra sat at a circular table, but she wasn't alone. Beside her was a figure Aaron didn't recognize, tall, painfully thin, with gray skin and large, lidless eyes. "Allow me to introduce Thex," Lyra said, gesturing to her companion. "He's a linguistic specialist with particular expertise in ancient scripts." Thex inclined his head slightly, but remained silent. "I don't recall agreeing to meet anyone besides you," Aaron said, remaining near the door. Lyra smiled. "You didn't agree to meet me at all, technically. Yet, here you are. Please, Dr. Vale, sit." Thex is completely trustworthy and, more importantly, essential to understanding what you've discovered. Reluctantly, Aaron took a seat across from them. "How do you know what I've discovered? I've shared my research with no one." "The Shadow Network has many eyes," Lyra replied vaguely. "But in this case, it was simple observation. You compared an ancient book to the stellar web announcement with obvious shock. It doesn't require a network of spies to recognize a significant discovery." "What's your interest in this, Lyra? Information trading is your business, but you seem personally invested." Her expression grew serious. "Because the stellar web isn't just an astronomical curiosity, Doctor. Military vessels from 3 different alliances have already begun positioning themselves near those systems. Quietly, of course. but my network has confirmed unusual fleet movements over the past month. This was news to Aaron. Why would they be interested in newly discovered star systems? That, Lyra said, leaning forward, is precisely what I hoped your book might tell us. Aaron considered his options. His instincts told him Lyra was being truthful, at least partially. And if military forces were already moving toward the stellar web systems, the ominous predictions in the book took on new urgency. Carefully, he withdrew the wrapped book and placed it on the table without opening it. I can't explain how, but this text contains a perfect representation of the stellar web, drawn over 1,000 years ago on Earth. The accompanying text suggests that the formation is somehow connected to an impending conflict, a war of celestial scale. Thex spoke for the first time, his voice surprisingly melodic. May I? He gestured toward the book. After a moment's hesitation, Aaron nodded. Thex unwrapped the book with reverent care, opening it to the constellation page that Aaron had marked. Extraordinary, the linguist murmured, his large eyes scanning the text. This is not merely ancient human script. There are elements here that appear in Arcturian historical records, and these symbols bear remarkable similarity to pre-collapse Centaurian glyphs. That's impossible, Aaron objected. This book originated on Earth, long before human contact with any extraterrestrial civilizations. Thex looked up, his expression unreadable. Then we face a most intriguing puzzle. Dr. Vale, because these scripts should not coexist in a human text from that era. Unless what? Lyra prompted when Thex trailed off. Unless the knowledge came from elsewhere, Thex finished. From a source common to multiple worlds. The implications hung in the air. Aaron had considered similar possibilities during his research, but had dismissed them as too fantastic. Can you translate more of it? He asked Thex. Given time, yes. The combination of scripts is complex, but not impenetrable. With your existing work as a foundation. Lyra interrupted. Time may be something we don't have. Dr. Vale, what exactly does your partial translation reveal about this conflict? Aaron hesitated before responding. It's fragmentary, but the text refers to celestial armies moving along the strands of the web. It mentions weapons of star death and worlds consumed by shadow. A poetic description of interstellar war, Lyra said grimly. The question is it prophecy or blueprint? What do you mean? Is the book predicting a war that would naturally occur? Or is it providing instructions for one? Lyra clarified. Because if military forces are already positioning themselves near these systems, they might be following a script. Your script. The thought was chilling. Aaron had been so focused on the mystery of the book's astronomical knowledge that he hadn't considered it might be an instruction manual for warfare. I need to know who has access to this information, he said firmly. You mentioned 3 alliances moving military assets. Which ones? Lyra exchanged a glance with Thex before answering. The Karen Hegemony, the Celesti Confederation, and the Zygonian Empire. All quietly, all denying any unusual activity when questioned by the Galactic Council. The 3 dominant military powers in the sector, each controlling dozens of systems and maintaining uneasy diplomatic relations. If they were mobilizing simultaneously. General Dregg approached me after the presentation, Aaron recalled. He specifically mentioned interest in ancient human military texts. That confirms our suspicions, Lyra said. The general isn't known for his scholarly interests. If he's approaching you directly, the Karen already knows something about your book. We should relocate, Thex suggested suddenly, his large eyes darting toward the door. This location may be compromised. Lyra nodded in agreement. My private research facility is secure and equipped with everything Thex will need for a comprehensive translation. Dr. Vale, will you join us? I promise the book will remain in your possession. Aaron weighed his limited options. Returning to his quarters risked interception by Dregg's forces, and continuing his research alone would take too long. If military movements were already underway, time was essential. "On one condition," he said finally. "Whatever we discover, we take to the Galactic Council immediately. No selling to private bidders. No information trading. If this book truly predicts, or worse, instructs, a galactic war, the Council needs to know." Lyra's expression hardened momentarily, then softened into resignation. "Agreed, Doctor. In this matter, even the Shadow Network recognizes that some information transcends profit." As they prepared to leave, a distant rumble shook the building. Not the familiar vibration of Nexus Prime's public transport system, but something deeper, more ominous. "What was that?" Aaron asked, steadying himself against the table. Lyra was already accessing a data terminal embedded in her sleeve. "Planetary defense grid just activated. Something's entering the system, multiple somethings, based on these energy readings." Before anyone could respond, emergency sirens began wailing throughout the lower bazaar. The planetary alert system activated, projecting emergency notifications in multiple languages. "Attention all citizens. Unidentified objects approaching Nexus Prime. This is not a drill. Please proceed to designated shelter areas immediately." Thex's gray skin paled further. "They're here already, the Celestial armies." "We don't know that," Aaron insisted, though his mind raced to the passage he'd translated. "When the web awakens, the shadow vessels come first, heralds of the greater darkness." "We need to move," Lyra said decisively, gathering her equipment. "My facility has direct communication access to Council headquarters. If this is the beginning of what your book predicts, Dr. Vale, we'll need to reach the authorities quickly." As they exited the stall, chaos had already engulfed the lower bazaar. Beings of all species rushed in every direction, some toward shelters, others attempting to reach private ships or secure locations. Through gaps in the bazaar's patchwork ceiling, Aaron glimpsed the night sky, where pinpoints of intense light were moving in unnatural patterns. Not stars, ships, dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, their running lights visible even from the ground. "This way," Lyra directed, leading them down a narrow alley away from the main crowd. "We'll take my private transport." As they hurried through the darkened passageway, Aaron clutched the book tightly against his chest. Whatever was happening above them, he was increasingly certain the ancient text held the key to understanding it. And perhaps, if they were very lucky, to stopping it before it was too late. Lyra's private transport proved to be a sleek, unmarked vessel docked in a hidden bay beneath the bazaar. Unlike the gaudy ships favored by many Nexus Prime merchants, this craft was designed for discretion. Matte black exterior, minimal running lights, and what appeared to be military-grade shielding. "The Whisper," Lyra announced as they approached. "Fastest unregistered ship in the quadrant." "Unregistered meaning illegal," Aaron noted, but without judgment. At this point, he was grateful for any advantage, legitimate or otherwise. The ship's entry ramp descended silently at Lyra's approach. Inside, the vessel was surprisingly spacious, with a central command area surrounded by specialized workstations. "Thex, take the research station," Lyra instructed as they boarded. "Begin detailed analysis of the book immediately. Dr. Vale, you'll assist him. I'll pilot and monitor the situation outside." As the ship hummed to life, external view screens activated, showing multiple angles of Nexus Prime and the space above it. The unidentified vessels were now clearly visible, sleek, predatory shapes moving in precise formation. Most concerning was their design, unlike any known ship in the Galactic Registry. "Those aren't Karen vessels," Aaron observed, "or Celesti, or Zygonian." "No," Lyra agreed grimly, her hands dancing across the control interface. "They match no known configuration in my database, but they're definitely military. Formation patterns indicate organized fleet movement." The Whisper rose smoothly from its hidden dock, navigation systems plotting a course toward the upper atmosphere. As they ascended, the full scale of the situation became apparent. Dozens of these unknown vessels had entered the Nexus system, maintaining positions just beyond the range of the planet's defensive grid. "They're not attacking," Thex noted, looking up from his analysis of the book. "They appear to be waiting." But for what? Aaron wondered aloud. The answer came moments later, as three massive ships emerged from hyperspace at the system's edge. One bearing the distinctive angular design of the Karen hegemony, another with the spiral configuration of Celesti craftsmanship, and the third displaying the biomechanical aesthetics of Zygonian engineering. Lyra's expression darkened. "Battle cruisers, the flagships of each alliance's fleet," she magnified the image. "And they're all heading directly for the unknown vessels." "This can't be coincidence," Aaron said, turning back to the book. "The timing is too perfect. Somehow they knew about this incursion. Or they caused it," Thex suggested quietly. "Perhaps these unknown ships are proxies, designed to provide justification for military action." Aaron's mind raced. The book mentioned heralds of the greater darkness. What if these ships are merely the first wave, a trigger for something larger? "We need that translation, now," Lyra said urgently. "Dr. Vale, what else can you decipher from the text surrounding the stellar web illustration?" Aaron and Thex huddled over the research station, where high-resolution scans of the book pages were displayed. The linguist's expertise proved invaluable, connecting symbols and patterns that had eluded Aaron's years of study. "This section," Thex indicated, highlighting a dense paragraph of mixed script, "appears to describe a sequence of events. The arrival of shadow vessels is followed by the gathering of the three powers, which triggers the awakening of the strands." The three powers would be the alliances, Aaron reasoned. But what does awakening of the strands mean? Before Thex could respond, the ship's sensors blared a warning. Lyra's attention snapped to the tactical display. "Energy surge detected along the stellar web coordinates," she reported. Massive subspace distortions forming between the connected systems. On the view screen, the space between the 11 star systems of the stellar web began to shimmer, the previously invisible connections becoming visibly distorted, as if the fabric of space itself was being stretched and twisted. "By the void," Thex whispered, his voice filled with awe and terror. "The strands are actually physical pathways, subspace corridors connecting the systems." Aaron stared at the unfolding phenomenon, then back at the ancient illustration in the book. The artist hadn't just drawn connecting lines as a visual representation. They had depicted actual spatial anomalies, corridors through subspace that had remained dormant until now. "The book says, 'When the three powers converge, the web shall awaken.'" Thex continued translating rapidly. "It's not just prediction, it's causation. The simultaneous presence of Charon, Celesti, and Zygonian forces at these coordinates is somehow triggering the activation of these subspace pathways." "But how could the author know this would happen?" Aaron demanded. "How could anyone from ancient Earth predict specific details about star systems thousands of light-years away, and technological interactions that wouldn't occur for a millennium?" "Dr. Vale," Lyra called from the pilot station, her voice tense. "We have a problem. Planetary Defense Command is ordering all vessels to return to surface immediately. Martial law has been declared on Nexus Prime." "We can't go back," Aaron insisted. "Not until we understand what's happening." "Agreed," Lyra said, adjusting their course. "But we need a destination. The Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime is now under military control, according to these transmissions. Where else can we take this information?" Aaron considered their options. With Nexus Prime locked down, their choices were limited. They needed to reach someone with the authority to intervene before the situation escalated further, someone who would listen to their warnings about the book's predictions. "The emergency council session," he said suddenly. It's scheduled for tomorrow on Celestis Station to address border disputes in the Outer Rim. Representatives from all major powers will be present, including Earth's ambassador. Celestis Station is 12 hours from here at maximum speed, Lyra calculated. And we'd have to navigate through potentially hostile territory. Do we have a choice? Oren asked. If what we're witnessing is just the beginning of what the book predicts, we need to reach the Council before full-scale conflict erupts. Lyra's fingers danced across the navigation controls. Setting course for Celestis Station. We'll need to avoid standard transit routes. Both the unknown vessels and the Alliance fleets are expanding their perimeter. As the Whisper changed direction, accelerating away from Nexus Prime, Aaron and Thex returned to their frantic translation efforts. The book contained over 300 pages of text, and they had barely scratched the surface of its secrets. This passage refers to the voices in the void, Thex noted, indicating another section. It says they will speak through the machines of thinking when the web awakens. Machines of thinking? Aaron mused. Could that be a reference to artificial intelligence? The Oracle Nexus system, perhaps? The Oracle Nexus was the planet's central AI network, managing everything from environmental controls to interstellar communications. If the book was predicting some form of interference with that system. Lyra, can you access the Oracle Nexus from here? Aaron called to the pilot. Limited access only. Full interface would require administrative credentials. Try anyway. I need to know if there are any unusual patterns in its behavior. While Lyra established a remote connection to the Oracle Nexus, Aaron continued working with Thex, gradually assembling a more complete translation of the text surrounding the stellar web illustration. What emerged was deeply troubling. The book described not just the awakening of the subspace corridors, but their purpose. The strands shall become roads of war, highways for the engines of destruction to travel between worlds in the blink of an eye. If the newly formed subspace corridors could indeed allow near-instantaneous travel between the 11 systems, it would fundamentally alter the strategic balance of the galaxy. Whoever controlled these pathways would have unprecedented military advantage, the ability to move fleets between distant star systems without the normal constraints of hyperspace travel. I've connected to Oracle Nexus, Lyra announced. And yes, there are anomalies. The system is experiencing unexplained data surges, particularly in military and navigational sectors. Can you isolate the source? Aaron asked. Trying. But the security protocols are... Lyra broke off, staring at her screen. This can't be right. The data surges are coming from the stellar web itself. Some form of transmission is being directed at Nexus Prime from the subspace corridors. Thex looked up sharply. The voices in the void, he said. The book was right again. But what are they saying? Aaron wondered. Can you intercept any of the transmissions? Lyra shook her head. They're heavily encrypted. Breaking the encryption would require more computing power than we have aboard. A new alert sounded from the ship's sensors. Lyra's expression tightened as she checked the readings. We've got company. 2 vessels on intercept course. Karen military by the signature. They must have detected our departure from Nexus Prime. Can we outrun them? Aaron asked anxiously. The Whisper is fast, but Karen interceptors are faster. They'll overtake us before we reach Celestis Station. Lyra's hands moved rapidly over the controls. I'm plotting an alternative route. There's a dense asteroid field in the Tycho sector. We might lose them there. The ship banked sharply, changing course toward the asteroid field. On the tactical display, the pursuing Karen vessels adjusted to match their new heading. They're determined, Lyra observed grimly. Which means they know exactly what we're carrying. How could they know about the book? Oren demanded. We've told no one. They don't need to know about the book specifically, Thex said quietly. Only that we departed Nexus Prime during a planetary lockdown, on a course away from the designated shelter areas. That alone would mark us as persons of interest. We need more time, Aaron insisted, returning to the research station. The book contains the key to understanding what's happening, and possibly how to stop it. As the Whisper accelerated toward the asteroid field, Aaron and Thex redoubled their translation efforts, focusing on sections that might provide immediate insights. One passage in particular caught Aaron's attention. When the armies of the three gather and the web awakens, seek the heart of the pattern. Therein lies both the seed of destruction and the key to peace. The heart of the pattern, Aaron repeated thoughtfully. Thex, look at the stellar web illustration again. Is there anything distinctive about the central point where the strands converge? The linguist studied the ancient drawing carefully. There appears to be a different symbol here, at the nexus of the strands. He magnified the image. It's subtle, but distinct from the other celestial markers. Aaron cross-referenced the symbol with the Astronomers Guild survey data. There's nothing special noted at those coordinates in the official survey. Just empty space between systems. Or perhaps something undetected by conventional sensors, Thex suggested. The book has proven accurate in every other aspect of its predictions. A violent jolt interrupted their analysis as the ship shuddered under sudden stress. Tractor beam, Lyra called out. The Karen vessels are trying to lock onto us. Initiating countermeasures. The Whisper lurched again as Lyra executed a series of evasive maneuvers, the engines straining against the pull of the enemy tractor beams. The asteroid field loomed ahead, a chaotic jumble of rock and ice that offered both protection and peril. Brace for turbulence, Lyra warned as she guided the ship into the field, weaving between massive asteroids with precision that spoke of years of experience. The pursuing Karen vessels hesitated at the edge of the field before following, their larger size making navigation more challenging. Lyra exploited this advantage, taking the Whisper deeper into the densest concentration of asteroids. We've bought some time, she announced after several tense minutes of navigation. They're holding position at the perimeter, probably calling for reinforcements. Then we need to make use of every moment, Aaron said, turning back to the book. Thex, I want to focus on this heart of the pattern reference. If it's as important as the text suggests, it might be our best hope for understanding what's happening. As they worked, Lyra maintained a vigilant watch on their pursuers while monitoring communications from Nexus Prime. The news was increasingly alarming. The unknown vessels remained in formation above the planet, while the three Alliance battlecruisers had established positions equidistant from each other, forming a triangle around the stellar web coordinates. It's as if they're waiting for something specific to happen, Lyra observed. Some kind of trigger event. Or they're creating one, Aaron suggested. The book says, when the three powers gather at the web, they awaken the strands. What if their positioning is deliberate, part of a plan to activate these subspace corridors for military advantage? But how would they know about this? Lyra asked. Your book is supposedly unique, and until the Great Survey results were published, no one knew about the stellar web configuration. Aaron paused, considering. Unless they have their own sources, their own books. The thought was staggering. If his ancient human text contained this knowledge, might similar texts exist in Charon, Celesti, and Zygonian archives? Each alliance believing they alone possessed the secret to unprecedented military power. I think I've found something, Thex announced suddenly. This section describes a great machine at the heart of the web, slumbering until the appointed time. It says the machine binds the strands together and gives them purpose. A machine? Aaron leaned closer to examine the text. What kind of machine could connect star systems across such vast distances? Whatever it is, Lyra interjected. We might have a chance to find out. I've analyzed the survey data more carefully. There is something at the central coordinates, not a stellar body, but a space-time anomaly too small to register on standard sensors. The Guild classified it as a minor gravitational distortion, insignificant for navigational purposes. Or a deliberately hidden installation, Aaron suggested. Something ancient, waiting to be activated. The heart of the pattern, Thex repeated. Both the seed of destruction and the key to peace. A decision crystallized in Aaron's mind. We need to go there, to the center of the stellar web. If this great machine exists, it might be our only hope of preventing whatever catastrophe the book predicts. That's assuming we can interpret the book's warnings correctly, Lyra cautioned. And assuming we can reach the coordinates before the alliances realize what we're doing. Do we have a choice? Aaron asked. Celesta Station is still hours away, and by then it might be too late. If the 3 battlecruisers are already in position, the activation sequence could begin at any moment. Lyra considered briefly, then nodded. The central coordinates it is, but we'll need to exit the asteroid field on the far side to avoid the Karen interceptors. Then, make a high-velocity approach to the target area. It won't be subtle. Subtlety isn't our priority anymore, Aaron said grimly. Speed is... As Lyra plotted their new course, Aaron and Thex continued their translation work with renewed urgency. The book's descriptions became increasingly specific, detailing a sequence of events following the awakening of the subspace corridors. First comes the binding of the strands. Then the voices speak through the thinking machines. The armies of the 3 will move along the paths of light, and darkness will follow in their wake. World after world shall fall to shadow, until the cycle completes and begins anew. The implications were chilling. Not just a single conflict, but a repeating cycle of destruction, one that had perhaps played out before, in ages past. Look at this, Thex said, indicating another passage. It references the builders who came before, who scattered their seeds among the stars. And here, it mentions the inheritors, who would one day find the paths their ancestors had hidden. Ancestors, Aaron murmured. Could that be what connects all of this? Some ancient civilization that predates all our known histories? Before Thex could respond, the ship lurched violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the cabin. We've been hit, Lyra shouted. Long-range artillery from the Karen vessels. They've brought in reinforcements with heavier weaponry. The whisper shuddered again as another impact rocked the ship. Damage reports flashed across Lyra's control panel. Shield integrity at 60%. One more direct hit and we'll lose maneuverability. Aaron made a split-second decision. Can you send a data burst to Celesta Station? Something that would reach Earth's ambassador? Possibly, but what good would that do? We'll never reach the station ourselves at this rate. We don't need to reach it, Aaron explained hurriedly. We just need to share what we've learned. If we can't stop this ourselves, maybe someone else can... Understanding dawned in Lyra's eyes. She nodded, fingers flying over the communications array. Prepare your data. I'll establish a secure channel. While Thex continued translating, Aaron quickly compiled their findings. Images of the book pages, their partial translations, and the connections they had established to current events. He added a personal message to Earth's ambassador, explaining the urgency of the situation and their theory about the great machine at the heart of the stellar web. Ready for transmission, he announced, transferring the data package to Lyra's station. Channel established. Transmitting now. Lyra's expression was grim, but determined. And adjusting course for final approach to the web's center. If we're going to reach it, we'll need to make a run for it. Full power, minimal shields. Do it, Aaron agreed. If what the book says is true, everything depends on reaching that machine before the activation sequence completes. The whisper surged forward, emerging from the asteroid field and accelerating toward the center of the stellar web. On the tactical display, the Karen vessels adjusted course to pursue, but the head start gave the smaller ship a critical advantage. As they approached the coordinates, the subspace distortions grew more pronounced. The view screens showed space itself, appearing to fold and ripple around them. The fabric of reality distorted by forces beyond conventional understanding. Sensors detecting a massive energy signature ahead, Lyra reported. Whatever's at the center of the web, it's powering up. Aaron studied the readings with growing concern. The three battlecruisers have moved into their final positions. They've formed an equilateral triangle around the central coordinates, exactly as the book described for the activation sequence. "We're too late," Thex said quietly. "The cycle has already begun." "No," Aaron insisted. "The book mentioned a key to peace as well as destruction. There must be a way to interrupt the sequence." As the Whisper closed the final distance to the center of the stellar web, the view screens suddenly cleared, revealing an astonishing sight. A massive structure floating in the void, its architecture unlike anything in known galactic records. Not a space station in the conventional sense, but a complex arrangement of interlocking rings surrounding a pulsating core of energy. "The Great Machine," Thex whispered in awe. "It's ancient," Lyra observed, checking the sensor readings. "Showing signs of advanced technology, but the materials date back at least 50,000 years, according to preliminary analysis." "Can we dock with it?" Aaron asked urgently. Lyra studied the structure. "There appears to be an entry point on the lower quadrant. I'll attempt to match velocity and establish a connection." As the Whisper carefully maneuvered toward the ancient machine, the pursuing Karen vessels suddenly broke off their approach, maintaining distance but not engaging further. "They're holding position," Lyra noted with surprise. "Almost as if they're afraid to come closer." "Or they've been ordered to wait for something specific to happen," Aaron suggested. The ship eased into position alongside the machine's apparent docking port. After a tense moment, magnetic seals engaged, creating a secure airlock connection. "Atmosphere readings within acceptable parameters," Lyra confirmed. "We can enter without suits, but I recommend breathing filters as a precaution." Aaron gathered the book and essential equipment. "Thex, continue the translation work from here. Lyra and I will explore the structure and maintain communication." The linguist nodded, clearly relieved to avoid venturing into the ancient machine himself. Aaron and Lyra proceeded through the airlock, stepping carefully into a curved corridor, illuminated by strips of pale blue light that activated as they approached. The interior architecture was both familiar and alien. Geometric patterns that suggested mathematical principles common to many civilizations, but executed in ways that defied conventional engineering. "These markings," Aaron noted, examining symbols etched into the walls. "They match some of the scripts in the book." "This confirms your theory," Lyra said. "The book wasn't just predicting these events. It was recording knowledge of this place, passed down through generations." They followed the corridor as it spiraled inward, each section revealing new details about the machine's construction and purpose. Chambers branched off the main path, filled with equipment, both recognizable and utterly foreign. Some appeared to be living quarters, others more like laboratories or control rooms. This wasn't built by any one species, Aaron realized as they progressed. Look at the varied architectural elements. It's as if multiple civilizations contributed to its construction. "A collaborative effort," Lyra agreed. "But to what end?" The corridor finally opened into a vast central chamber, dominated by a spherical device suspended in an energy field. Around this core, 12 control stations were arranged in a circle, each designed for a different physiological configuration, some for humanoid users, others for beings with entirely different anatomies. 12 stations, Aaron noted. 12 founding species, perhaps. Before Lyra could respond, the sphere at the center pulsed with intensifying light. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing the positions of the 3 battlecruisers and the expanding subspace corridors of the stellar web. A voice emerged from hidden speakers, its tones modulated in a way that suggested artificial origin. Activation sequence initiated. Phase 1 complete. Awaiting authorization for Phase 2. Aaron approached one of the humanoid-compatible control stations cautiously. The interface was complex, but not entirely incomprehensible. Symbols, matching those in his book, appeared on floating displays. This station was designed for human use, he realized with shock. Or at least, beings physiologically similar to humans. But humans weren't an interstellar species when this was built, Lyra objected. No, Aaron agreed. But what if our ancestors were brought here? What if humans were one of these 12 founding species? But something happened. Something that sent us back to Earth. To start over. The implications were staggering. A prehistory of humanity that extended beyond Earth. Into the stars. The artificial voice spoke again. Warning, unauthorized presence detected. Security protocols engaged. Sections of the floor and walls reconfigured, revealing defensive systems that hummed with ancient but potent energy. We need to prove we belong here, Aaron said urgently. That we're authorized users. He placed the book on the control station interface. This is our key, the knowledge preserved through generations. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, the defensive systems powered down, and the artificial voice returned. Authentication recognized. Ancestral pattern confirmed. Access granted to inheritor. The holographic displays shifted, showing new information, including detailed schematics of the machine itself and its connection to the stellar web. It recognizes the book, Lyra said in astonishment. And you, by extension. Not just me, Aaron corrected. Humanity. We're one of the inheritors mentioned in the text. Descendants of the builders who created this network. As he interacted with the control station, the machine's purpose became increasingly clear. The stellar web wasn't designed as a weapon or a means of conquest. It was a transportation network, created to connect distant worlds without the limitations of conventional space travel. It was meant to unite, not divide, Aaron explained as he absorbed the information. The 12 founding species built this network as a shared resource, a way to maintain their alliance across vast distances. Then, why does the book warn of war and destruction? Lyra asked. Aaron navigated deeper into the system, uncovering historical records stored within the machine's memory. Because it happened before, the network was weaponized by 3 factions within the Alliance. They used the instantaneous travel capabilities to launch surprise attacks, beginning a war that eventually destroyed their civilization. And now, history is repeating itself, Lyra said grimly. The Karen, Celesti, and Zygonian alliances have rediscovered the network and plan to use it for military advantage. The cycle completes and begins anew, Aaron quoted from the book. But there must be a way to break the cycle. The book mentioned a key to peace as well as destruction. Further exploration of the system revealed a critical insight. The machine at the heart of the web contains safeguards, designed by the original builders to prevent misuse. These safeguards had been overridden in the previous cycle, leading to catastrophe, but they could be reactivated. The builders anticipated this, Aaron realized. They knew their creation might be rediscovered and misused again, so they left a way to reset the system, to reconfigure it for its original purpose. Can you do it? Lyra asked, watching as Aaron worked at the control station. I think so, but it requires simultaneous activation from multiple stations. We need representatives from more of the inheritor species. As if in response to this dilemma, the artificial voice spoke again. Emergency protocol available. Single inheritor may initiate system reset with ancestral key and biological confirmation. The book, Aaron understood immediately. And blood? DNA? Genetic verification required, the voice confirmed. Aaron hesitated only briefly before placing his hand on a panel that materialized on the control station. A momentary sharp pain indicated the collection of a genetic sample. Analyzing, the voice announced. Genetic pattern confirmed as descended from founder species 7. Authorization accepted. The central sphere pulsed with renewed energy, and the holographic displays shifted to show a new configuration of the stellar web. One where the subspace corridors connected all systems equally, rather than centralizing power with the three battlecruisers. "Reset sequence initiated," the voice declared. "Reconfiguring network parameters. Original protocols restored." On the displays, the expanding subspace corridors suddenly stabilized, then began to reconfigure. The three battlecruisers, positioned to control the network, found themselves instead incorporated into it, connected to all systems simultaneously, with no strategic advantage over any other position. "You've neutralized the military potential," Lyra observed, watching the transformation with amazement. "The network can't be weaponized if all points are equally connected." "That was the original design," Aaron confirmed. "A true web, with no center of power, all worlds connected, all with equal access and equal responsibility." The ship's communicator chimed. Thex's voice came through, urgent and excited. "Dr. Vale, the book! The final pages are changing!" "Changing? How is that possible?" "I don't know, but the text is literally rewriting itself. The warnings of war are being replaced with instructions, protocols for a galactic council, for shared governance of the network." Aaron looked at the ancient book still resting on the control interface, its pages indeed shifting subtly as new text appeared. Or perhaps old text revealing itself now that the proper conditions had been met. "It's not just a historical record," he realized. "It's a living document, programmed to adapt as circumstances change." The final pages were waiting for this moment, for the cycle to be broken. As the reset sequence completed, communication channels suddenly opened throughout the chamber, connecting them to the three battlecruisers and to Celestis Station, where the emergency council session was now underway. On the primary display, the face of Earth's ambassador appeared, shocked but composed. "Dr. Vale, we received your data transmission. The Council is in emergency session, trying to understand what's happening with the stellar web phenomenon." "Ambassador," Aaron acknowledged, relief flooding through him. "I'm transmitting our location and all the information we've discovered. The stellar web is an ancient transportation network, created by a coalition of species that includes humanity's ancestors. It was meant to unite worlds, not divide them." "The three Alliance commanders are demanding explanations," the ambassador informed him. "Their military advantage has been neutralized, and they're confused, to put it mildly." "Invite them to join us here," Aaron suggested. "All of them, Karen, Celeste, Zygonian. Let them see what we've discovered. The machine at the heart of the web contains the history of our shared past and instructions for our collective future." The ambassador hesitated, then nodded. "I'll propose it to the Council. But Dr. Vale, what you're suggesting, that humanity descended from an advanced interstellar species, it changes everything we thought we knew about our history." "Yes," Aaron agreed simply. "It does. But perhaps that's what we needed. A reminder that we're all connected, all descended from those who once worked together to build something magnificent." Hours later, representatives from the Galactic Council arrived at the ancient machine, including delegates from each of the three military alliances. General Dreg was among them, his mandibles clicking with poorly concealed agitation as he surveyed the central chamber. "This technology belongs to the Karen hegemony by right of discovery," he declared immediately. "Our astronomers identified the stellar web configuration in our ancient texts decades ago." "As did ours," Ambassador Zeth countered, his translucent skin shimmering with emotion. "The Celesti Confederation has records dating back millennia that describe this network." The Zygonian representative, a being of few words, simply stated, "We also claim ancestral connection." "Of course you do," Aaron said, surprising them all. "Because you're all right. The 12 founder species seeded many worlds, including those that would become the homeworlds of the Charon, Celesti, Zygonian, and human civilizations. We're all inheritors of their legacy. He gestured to the book, now displayed prominently on a central pedestal where all could see its changing pages. This text wasn't unique to Earth. Similar records were preserved on many worlds, each containing pieces of the greater knowledge. They were meant to be brought together again, when we were ready. "Ready for what?" General Dreg demanded. "For this," Aaron said, activating the station interface. The central sphere expanded its projection, showing not just the current stellar web, but hundreds of potential connections spanning the entire galaxy. "The network we've discovered is just the beginning, a test, to see if we could overcome our divisions and use it as it was intended." "A test we nearly failed," Lyra observed quietly. "But didn't," Aaron emphasized. "The cycle of destruction was broken. Now we have a choice. Continue competing for military advantage, or work together to rebuild what our ancestors created, a united galaxy." The debate that followed was lengthy and often heated. Military commanders reluctant to relinquish strategic advantage argued with scientists eager to explore the network's potential. Politicians worried about shifting power balances negotiated with visionaries who saw opportunity for unprecedented cooperation. Through it all, Aaron kept returning to the book, to the wisdom preserved through ages, waiting for this moment when the inheritors would have to choose their path forward. One passage in particular resonated with the assembled representatives. "The strands that bind can divide or unite, can cage or connect. The choice belongs to those who walk the paths. Each generation must decide anew whether to build or to break, to war or to weave together." When the council finally reached its decision, it was neither perfect nor unanimous. But it was a beginning. The stellar web would be placed under shared governance, with representatives from all major species, including humans, participating in its management and development. General Dreg, to everyone's surprise, was among those who ultimately supported the arrangement. "The Karen understand the value of unity through strength," he explained, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Perhaps unity itself can be a form of strength." As the council delegation prepared to depart, Ambassador Zeth approached Aaron privately. "Dr. Vale," he said, his earlier condescension notably absent. "It seems I underestimated both you and the value of your book." "An easy mistake to make, Ambassador," Aaron replied without malice. "After all, it's just pressed plant fibers." Zeth's translucent skin flushed slightly. "Indeed. Perhaps there are other aspects of human culture that merit reconsideration as well. I would be interested in discussing these matters further, when time permits." "I'd welcome that conversation," Aaron said sincerely. After the delegates had gone, only Aaron, Lyra, and Thex remained in the central chamber. The machine hummed with renewed purpose, its systems fully activated for the first time in millennia. "What will you do now, Dr. Vale?" Lyra asked, watching as Aaron carefully closed the book, its pages now stable once more. "Continue translating," he answered simply. "There's still so much we don't understand, about our shared past, about the network's capabilities, about the 12 founder species and what ultimately led to their downfall. And about our future," Thex added. "The final pages contain what appear to be warnings about challenges yet to come." Aaron nodded, his expression thoughtful. "The book calls them the trials of inheritance. Apparently breaking the cycle of war was just the first test. There will be others, as the network expands." "Then we'd better be prepared," Lyra said decisively. "The Shadow Network has resources that could assist with further translation and research. If you're willing to continue our partnership." "I am," Aaron confirmed. "But not just with the Shadow Network. We'll need everyone, scientists, diplomats, even military strategists like General Dreg. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As they prepared to leave the ancient machine, now designated the Nexus by official council decree, Aaron took one last look at the central sphere with its pulsating energy. For the first time since discovering the book's connection to the stellar web, he felt genuine hope for the future. The final passage he'd translated echoed in his mind. When the inheritors choose unity over division, the next great journey begins. The stars await those who remember their shared beginnings and create their shared destiny. The cycle had been broken. A new path had been chosen. And somewhere, perhaps, the ancient builders were watching their descendants take the first steps toward fulfilling their original vision. A galaxy united by the strands of the great web, stronger together than apart. In the vastness of space, the subspace corridors of the stellar web glowed with renewed purpose. No longer pathways for conquest, but bridges between worlds. And on 1,000 planets, beings looked up at their night skies with new understanding, that they were not alone, had never been alone, and would face whatever came next as one united galactic family. The book that had once been mocked now rested in a place of honor, its pages continuing to reveal their secrets to those who had earned the right to read them. And Dr. Aaron Vale, once an exile from a disrespected world, found himself at the center of a new era. A translator, not just of ancient text, but of the shared hopes and dreams of an entire galaxy. The web had awakened, the inheritors had chosen, and the stars beckoned.